Hello there, you're watching Al24 News Morning Show program, and here with us our special journalist, as usual, Miriam Zian. Good morning.
Good morning, Melissa. I hope you're doing great. Good morning, dear Al24 News viewers, and welcome to your favorite morning show. This week was full of events and incidents and stories, so we will be talking about these stories. We'll also have a little talk about Pink October and Pink Ribbon stories.
And we're going to start with the Prime Minister Liz Truss of Britain announced her resignation on Thursday, bringing a swift end to a 6-week in office that began with a bad economic experiment that descended into financial and political chaos.
Exactly. Now, Britain will have a new Prime Minister within a week. It has been 3 days since Prime Minister Liz Truss has resigned from her job. Well, she departs as the shortest serving Prime Minister in Britain's history. She spent only 45 days in office. Very short time for a prime minister. This is the first time in Britain history that a prime minister stays only for 45 days. Britons in the Midlands welcomed the news. Somehow those citizens were not surprised that the prime minister resigned. They were not really surprised, and they really liked the fact that she resigned. Now, for EU leaders, they said they hoped for political stability, of course, in Britain. The US President Joe Biden has expressed the same thing, and he said that the US and Britain are enduring allies, and the strong bonds will last. Let's have a listen on what EU leaders said and Joe Biden said on this.
She was a good partner on Russia and Ukraine, and the British are going to solve their problems, but she was a good partner.
I have had very good relations with Boris Johnson, but also Liz Truss, so we are very sad to see the UK struggling with the issues, and we miss them in the European Union.
In turbulent times, it's always better to have a prime minister that has a future in front of his or her, and we'll follow this in detail. United Kingdom is a neighbor of us. It's a partner in so many domains, and it will remain a partner in so many domains. So we hope to have soon a person who we can discuss so many topics.
Miriam, we listened to these political reactions, but we have also been following the British media, the British newspapers, who have started asking about who's going to become the new Prime Minister in England since the moment Liz Truss announced her resignation. Exactly. So who could possibly be the next Prime Minister? Is it going to be the coming back of Boris Johnson, or is it going to be for Rishi Sunak maybe?
Well, Truss was elected after Boris Johnson's scandal. So there was already a scandal before Truss's resignation. And now the Conservative Party will become, the new person selected by the Conservative Party will become the third Prime Minister in just 2 months. Now, for speculations, they are saying that Boris Johnson could make a comeback. Rishi Sunak, the former Prime Minister, could also be a possible or potential candidate, is a potential candidate. And Penny Mordaunt is also a potential candidate and came third during the leadership contest. So,
and this will be decided within a week.
Within a week, we'll see who will become UK's Prime Minister.
Indeed. And moving on to Sri Lankan writer Shihan Karunatilaka, who won the Booker Prize on Monday for his second novel, The Seven Moons of Mali Almeida.
Indeed. Karunatilaka received the trophy from Queen Consort Camilla. He at the English Language Literary Awards, and the first in-person ceremony since 2019. So it was COVID-19, and not many ceremonies were happening, not many events. Now it's the comeback of events and prizes. He also got a prize of £50,000 prize. His novel is about a dead photographer on a mission in the afterlife. So it's in the context of the 1990 Sri Lanka Civil War. Melissa, the Booker Prize is a literary prize awarded for the best novel written in English, published in the UK and published in Ireland. It is to promote the book itself, but not just the book, it's also to promote English literature worldwide. So Shihan is considered as one of Sri Lanka's foremost authors. He has written screenplays, he's written travel stories, and many other things, such as rock songs as well. Let's have a listen on the writer's words.
Thank you to the Booker Foundation, the Booker Prize, to the judges for this inspiring, rich and brilliant long list, And for this spectacular shortlist, it's been a hell of a ride. I hope it's written in Sri Lanka that learns from its stories, and that Seven Moons will be in the fantasy section of the bookshop and will not be mistaken, next to the dragons and unicorns, will not be mistaken for realism or political satire. We are all winners for being part of this magnificent shortlist.
To climate change issues now, and carbon emissions are still rising, but more slowly thanks to renewables and electric cars.
Exactly. Now, the International Energy Agency said Wednesday that it expects carbon emissions from the burning of fossil fuels to rise again this year, but by much less than in 2021. While last year saw a strong rebound in carbon dioxide emissions, well, you know, it was COVID-19, then the world has opened a little bit more, so it was more carbon dioxide, you know. So after the global economic downturn caused by the coronavirus pandemic in 2020, carbon dioxide rised, but now we have got some good news in 2022 against the battle against greenhouse gases emissions from the burning of fossil fuels. They are actually on track to rise less than 1% this year. Very happy news for our planet.
And that is absolutely going to be a good point for the next COP27 taking place in Egypt next November.
Egypt next November, exactly.
Great. So moving on to Ralph Lauren, who apologized after Mexico indigenous plagiarism claim.
Yes, crazy. Now, the US fashion house Ralph Lauren has apologized on Friday after Mexico's first lady has said that they have stolen or plagiarized designs from Mexicans or from indigenous designs. Now, she sought compensation for local communities, and usually Mexico denounces what it calls plagiarism by foreign cultures and foreign designers of the motifs, the embroidery, the colors, and of indigenous people. It has also previously lodged complaints against major clothing brands such as Zara, Shein, and Mango. Well, also the culture minister Alejandra Frosto added her own criticism. She said that it is a case of cultural appropriation.
And we end with technology news. And a decade and a half after its release, an unopened first generation iPhone was sold for roughly more than $40,000 in the United States.
Yeah. An iPhone, the first generation iPhones selling for $40,000 is a crazy number, but we'll see why. Well, the first generation iPhone was first released in 2007 by Steve Jobs at an original price of $599 at an auction in the US. Now, the phone was in an exceptional condition. It's a brand new phone, no stickers. It's an unopened box, as you said. Brand new condition, brand new phone in a very good condition. So the first generation iPhone is a 3.5-inch screen. It also has 2 megapixels camera and a Safari web browser. A late Apple CEO co-founder.
It's very old-fashioned compared to the new iPhones.
Of course, if you compare the features of the first generation iPhone to the iPhone 14,
current iPhone 14,
it's a huge difference. Also, it has been 15 years, a decade or so since the first release of the first generation iPhone. Now, Steve Jobs used to call it, when he released it in 2007, an iPod, a phone, and an internet communication combination. Well, it was sold more than 65 times at its original price.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, those who
Why did it get sold at this price?
Well, 65 times its original price, something crazy as we already said. The investors and collectors says it's a combination of cultural relevance and rarity that makes it something extremely desirable. That's what they said.
That's crazy. So moving on now, I guess we're gonna come to the debate of the day.
Yes.
And the topic is gonna be about
Pink October and pink ribbons. We will be talking about Pink October. So this particular month is symbolized with pink ribbon. Let's delve into the history of pink ribbon and Pink October. So the original idea of the event was born in the cosmetic world, more exactly with the iconic Estée Lauder, who was diagnosed in the 90s with breast cancer. So when she was diagnosed with breast cancer, she's decided to create the pink ribbon in collaboration with a breast cancer research foundation, Her goal was to fund scientific research on breast cancer and to educate women about the disease. But it was not until 1992 that the international community officially made October a month dedicated to fight against breast cancer. Now, the idea then spread to the rest of the world, and it became an international month of to fight against breast cancer. It became an annual event celebrated in all countries around the world. Now, the Estée Lauder company's breast cancer campaign and its pink ribbon recently celebrated their 30th anniversary. And in numbers to date in ELC's breast cancer campaign and foundation, they have raised $108 million of fund for research, education, and medical services. Let's listen on to what the executive chairman Estée Lauder said on that occasion.
You know, it's hard to believe it's been 30 years since the breast cancer campaign started, but reality is we've accomplished so much, and it's amazing that in 30 years, the scientists who've been funded by all the amazing efforts for the breast cancer campaign and the Breast Cancer Research Foundation, they've accomplished so much, and there's so much more for them to accomplish still.
And by the way, Melissa, today an event which is relevant to Pink October and the fight against breast cancer is happening today in Algiers. It's called the Pink Race, La Course Rose, in which people are invited for a day of full activities. The race is part of an awareness campaign on women diseases. So women are going to be participating, everyone will participate, and they will have a race and talk about this disease. Hopefully.
And you're participating in your own way. We're in a full pink suit today.
To raise awareness about breast cancer.
That is absolutely beautiful. It is important to highlight that breast cancer is the most common cancer for women in the United States, except for skin cancers, of course. It is about 30%, or 1 in 3 of all new female cancers each year. And breast cancer statistics show that death rates have been decreasing steadily since 1989 for an overall decline of 43% through 2020. The decrease in the death rates is believed to be the result of finding breast cancers earlier than screening and increased, of course, awareness as well as better treatments. However, the decline has slowed slightly in recent years, so it is very important to raise awareness about this disease.
This disease, exactly. Well, researchers around the world are working to find better ways to prevent, detect, and treat breast cancer and to improve the quality of life of patients and also survivors. So a decade or 2 decades ago, people associated cancer with death. People were really afraid of that very specific cancer. But today there are more chances, like you said, there are more chances to heal from this disease, and it's now less scary than what it used to be. Let's take a listen on what Dr. Larry Norton said on the development of medicine in this specific field.
You know, it's almost hard to remember what it was like 30 years ago. We've made so many changes. I mean, 30 years ago, breast cancer was a totally different disease. I mean, we saw much bigger tumors. Patients had a much worse prognosis. The therapies were much tougher for people to take, and metastatic disease was something that we really couldn't handle at all. It's not something to be afraid of. It's something to tackle. It's a real problem, and it's something that people should be aware of as a problem. But on the other hand, it's something that we can really address with available tools and with the tools of the future. What's actually probably increased, people are getting it younger now, which is one factor. Also, obesity has increased, and that's probably a major factor in the incidence. But the death rate has dropped precipitously, more than 40%. And that 40% represents the people who are taking advantage of the advances that have been made. Not everybody has the opportunity to take advantage of those advances. So it would be even greater if we could actually take the advance that we've made in diagnosis and therapy and apply it to a larger segment, hopefully all the American population.
Well, breast cancer is one of the most deadly diseases in the earth, like you said, and worldwide. It surpassed lung cancer in 2020 as the most cancer diagnosed in American women. It's a leading cause of cancer death in less developed countries. Less developed countries
they have less awareness and they have less treatment capabilities.
Chances of being treated and cured from the disease. So the month of October has become an annual meeting throughout the world, like we said, to fight against breast cancer disease, which is a very stubborn disease that mainly affects women. But people should know that it not only affects women but also men. So to fight this disease, awareness campaigns for early detection of breast cancer are organized throughout this month. We also have some very good news in this context. Vaccines that treat cancer could be accessible to patients as early as the next decades, say biotech developers. While scientists are tentative about using the term cure the cancer, vaccines in progress may have the potential to significantly treat and fight cancer cells.
It is important also to know that the BioNTech scientist who announced this cancer vaccine, who is Ogur Shaheen, if I spell it correctly, he is the one who created the first COVID-19 vaccine in early November 2020.
Exactly. Well, that's some happy news for cancer for people who have cancer. And the cancer research overall.
Moving on, Miriam, we go to some culture information. BTS, the K-pop stars, are going to take time out for military service.
Yes, they will.
This is very bad news for
BTS
K-pop fans.
Yeah, exactly. Now, all 7 members of the globally mega popular K-pop band BTS will be serving in the South Korean military. The company Big Hit announced Monday, but they said that the BTS boys band plans to come back together as a group around 2025 when they finish their military service.
And their leave is definitely going to make Korea lose billions or millions of dollars in terms of tourism, merchandise, and cosmetics.
Exactly. Well, since their debut in 2013, BTS became the epitome of pop music phenomenon. They've been nominated for 2 Grammys. They've charted 4 #1 albums faster than any group since the Beatles, and they have broken 25 Guinness world records. So taking time out of the military will definitely make South Korea lose money and tourism and economy. So yeah, it definitely will.
The K-pop song, if you remember, Gangnam Style in 2020 of Psy, is actually the song that rose the global attention to this music industry, to the K-pop industry. And BTS came after some years after the release of this song, and $3.6 billion is the amount that BTS brings to the South Korean economy per year.
Yes,
that is
a huge number. Well, as you said, the song Gangnam Style was the first, say, apparition of K-pop, but now BTS are the most known and they make huge numbers.
Forbes actually named them the world's highest paid boy band and K-pop act.
Yes, they are. So they're them missing from the field will make South Korea a huge loss, first of all, for bad news for BTS Army, also bad news for South Korea's economy. But there is good news, not just bad news for BTS Army. The band will be free to participate in national events for the public good, according to South Korea's military.
Moving on to the American artist Kanye West, who agreed to buy right-wing platform Parler.
Yes. Okay, all of them are, they all want to have their own platforms, and they want freedom of speech and everything. So Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, has agreed to buy self-styled uncancelable social media platform Parler, the company has announced. So last week, the star's Twitter and Instagram accounts were blocked or locked after he posted so-called anti-Semitic messages. Now, Parler is used mainly, as you said, by US conservatives. It describes itself as a free speech alternative to mainstream platforms. So Ye, or Kanye West, will never have to fear being removed from social media again.
And this happened to Donald Trump, who have been banned from Twitter, and he had to create his own social platform, Social Truth.
Exactly.
Well, thank you very much, Miriam, for all these details. We're going to see you, of course, next week for another morning show. But dear viewers, it's a wrap for today's morning show. Sabah News is still here, so don't go away.